Did you also know November is Diabetes Awareness Month? Well, now that you do know, we're going to talk about managing diabetes with Dr. Elaine Chin and diabetes warrior Heidi Boyachek. Welcome to both of you. Thank you for joining us. A very important conversation. Dr. Chin, for those who don't know, can you tell us the difference between type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes?
So diabetes is a medical condition where basically your blood sugars are higher than we would like. So most people are diagnosed with type 2. It's later adult onset, and you don't necessarily require insulin. And so we try to do with diet management, lifestyle, and occasionally medications. So Heidi's daughter, Hailey, has type 1, and it is an autoimmune type condition. And so we don't make insulin, and therefore we need insulin to survive.
And what would be the most challenging part, Dr. Chin, of living with type 1 diabetes?
So when you don't have insulin, you need to artificially give it to Hailey. And if your sugars are too high and we need more insulin, and if it's too low, we don't need as much insulin. It's really hard to manage in the short term because children eat stuff that you don't expect them to, and they run around more than we want them to sometimes.
Yeah.
And the longer term, with the blood sugars up and down, not in good control, it increases your risk for complications longer term with organ damage, and that can lead to blindness, kidney issues, and in your adulthood, stroke and heart disease.
Okay, so we hear about that all the time, the link between diabetes and these things, but I've never known why they are connected, so that's interesting information. We want to talk a little bit about management. So Dexcom's continuous glucose monitoring system can come into play for someone managing diabetes. So can you tell us a bit about that, Dr. Chin?
Yeah, so when I first started practicing, all we could do was finger prick.
Yeah.
And our goal was to help people one day to continuously monitor it. So the Dexcom G6 allows Hailey and Heidi to manage her glucose levels better, and therefore better manage her A1C, which is the control of your glucose levels over a 90-day period. So we know that continuous glucose monitoring is now the gold standard for managing diabetes.
And that's what's happening right now, Heidi, for you and your family with Hailey. Tell me a little bit about, I'd love to hear your story about what it's been like with Hailey having this.
It's been a complete life change and a very complex disease to learn and to manage living with. My daughter Hailey was only 3 years old when she was diagnosed. So as you can imagine, having a little toddler and now suddenly having to learn how to prick their finger many, many times a day, give needles anytime they need to eat, check them throughout the night in their sleep. It's a complete learning curve for Hailey and for all children and adults with diabetes. There's many variables that change blood sugar. It's not as simple as you need insulin with your food and you carry on with your life. Things like the weather can change your blood sugar, excitement, stress, a bad dream for a small child. There's so many factors layered on top of each other, and we're dealing with a drug here that keeps you alive, but too much of it can kill you and not enough of it can also kill you. So it's a balancing act 24 hours a day.
Terrifying as a parent.
It is.
Okay, so Hailey was diagnosed at 3. She couldn't even communicate to you what was happening. Like, what was that process like?
Exactly. So for a 3-year-old, and even now, she's now 7.
Yeah.
Hailey is what you would call hypo or hyper unaware, meaning she most of the time is unaware of the feeling of a high or low blood sugar.
Yeah.
So we depend on the Dexcom G6 monitoring to tell us if her blood sugars are at a safe range or not. We get alerts in the night when she's sleeping, so it wakes me up, lets me know if she's in danger. It lets me know if she's too high and I need to go give her some insulin to bring her number back down. And the most important one is letting us know that she's too low. A low blood sugar could end in seizure or death.
Oh my goodness. And now before you had CGM, how did you monitor that?
So life with a 3-year-old before a CGM. You're a mom, you know that Band-Aids are usually the magic fix for kids with pain.
Yes.
So now, put yourself in our shoes. We're pricking her finger anywhere from 10 to 12 times a day. So we had a sweet little girl with a Barbie Band-Aid on every fingertip, and every time we needed to check her number again, we had to pick which finger we would slide a Band-Aid off of, get that drop of blood, test her number. So we've gone from there to now, here I am in Toronto. Hailey is in Manitoba at school. And through the Dexcom Follow app, I'm monitoring her glucose from here. Every 5 minutes, I'm assured I'm getting a reading. I can see if she's trending downward and if somebody needs to help her and get her a snack. I can see if she's moving upward and she needs insulin. It's a complete game changer.
Every 5 minutes.
Every 5 minutes.
That is incredible. And so I want to know how that is connected to Hailey. How does the phone know what's happening in her body?
So Hailey wears a sensor on her body. We usually put
Okay.
it on her tummy.
Yeah.
And she wears it for 10 days at a time. And then we do a site change. So this little sensor goes on.
Yeah.
It has a small cannula into the skin. And it is constantly reading her levels as they're fluctuating, which they do all day thanks to the weather and her mood and the excitement at school, etc. Whereas before, she would look completely fine whether she be high, low, or in range.
That's right, because she's young. So it's interesting because I see your eyes, you keep going to your phone, and that's what a parent does.
Yes.
And that's why it's important to have a system that's going to be constantly updating you. Dr. Chin, what more should we sort of know about how the continuous glucose monitoring system works?
So as we know, we don't need to prick our fingers. So this sensor device can go either on the upper arm for adults, and for younger children up from age 2, they can put it on their belly or upper buttocks. And then you get your information for highs and lows, and that's the most important thing, to not go into a medical emergency. And it's covered by many private drug plans, and in any province, you should check to see how you can get support for these devices.
Dr. Chin, thank you. And Heidi, thank you. I mean, you're very good. You're a very good ambassador for your daughter.
Thank you.
And I think anyone that hears your story will understand the importance of a device like this. So thank you so much for that. For more information on the Dexcom continuous glucose monitor, we've got it up on our website for you. That's Cityline.